We are a mission purpose-driven brand. We inspire millions of children to fall in love with cycling and to make the world a better place doing that.
What I was told was, what you're doing is professional suicide. You're never going to succeed. I was like, fuck you, let's do it.
I was lucky to have been seeing the best companies, working with them before starting my own business.
I've got 7 or 8 LLCs, and sometimes I see no advancement whatsoever, and I feel it's just lack of attention, lack of consistency. How do you get that consistency to move forward and keep growing?
In the second year, I sold 1,500 bikes, $500,000 in revenue. And in the third year, 4.5 million in revenue. And in the fourth year, it was 12 million.
If you commit, you gotta be all in, man.
Yeah, it has to be 100% or nothing. You have to feel it in your gut.
Having built something also gives me now the opportunity to give back to others. So if they need something that I can help them with, that's what I'm doing right now, is I just help other business owners scale and grow their business.
Two vascular surgeons walk into a bar and come out with a podcast. We are talking everything vascular and not. Welcome to the Life of Flow podcast.
The following podcast is not relating to my teachings and work at Del Cedar Medical Center and is for entertainment purposes only. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Life of Flow podcast. And today we have Mathias Ihlenfeld. I'm sure I butchered that German name, but Mathias is a good friend here in Austin. He is a very successful entrepreneur, built his own direct-to-consumer bike company, and then scaled it to $200 million. And now he coaches high-performing men with their own business, entrepreneurs, to do the same thing. So I hope you guys enjoy. Vamos. Brother, thank you for coming into the Life of Flow podcast. Miguel, Matthias, and we've gotten to know each other better recently, but Matthias is an amazing person, lives here in Austin. We met through one of the many crazy things I do in my free time. And Matthias is a kind of kindred spirit. So welcome, Matthias. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lucas and Miguel, for having me on the Life of Flow podcast. Really excited to be here and talk a little bit about life and business and whatever else comes up. So I'm really excited to be here with you guys today.
Well, I would say that I hope this is the first of many. I've not only learned about the unique and the magic that you bring, the uniqueness and the magic that you bring through Lucas, but our producer puts notes together, and I was pretty perplexed by all the cool shit you've done. Maybe I think it would probably be it would be a dishonor if I do that. How about you give our audience on this first episode with you a little journey of where you started, and I'm going to say I notice a little accent. I'm not trying to be demeaning with that, but I'd love to know what's the story behind the accent, where you're originally from, and how have you made your way back or into America now?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, for me, I'm German originally, so you'll hear it from the accent. I won't hide it. I've been in the States for 31 years now. I came here in 1994. I arrived in the States with 3 tennis rackets and a toothbrush, and I played tennis in college in Monroe, Louisiana. And so I came from Frankfurt, Germany, got in a plane. It's a little bit of a culture shock, but it was one of the greatest experiences that I had. And as soon as I arrived in the States, I kind of felt like I was home, right? In Germany, I always felt like this wasn't sort of like where I wanted to be, but being here, felt really comfortable right away, even though it was a different environment for me. Played collegiate tennis for a few years. Then I got my MBA, was able to stay here. And, I think, Lucas, you know this, when you're from another country, it's not so easy to actually get a job here, right? So I was able to sort of like create my niche in systems and business processes, and got into systems consulting work, and became ultimately an expert in the field, and that allowed me to stay in this country here. So really fortunate and grateful that I made that journey and started my journey here at almost, like, what is it now, 31 years ago. So
And how many states have you now lived in other than Louisiana?
I've moved all over the place. Yeah, so I moved from Louisiana to Alabama where I got my MBA. Then I moved to Massachusetts. I got my second job there. Then I lived for a while in California, and then I came to Austin, Texas in 2006. Yeah, we decided to come to Austin, and yeah, start a family here.
You know, something that I came here first, and I'm originally from Costa Rica, and so I came here
And
first.
you lived in Germany too. So you had a
Yes, I
little
did.
yeah.
I did my training in Leipzig for 3 years or so. But I was alluding to this to the fact that the United States is so big. I mean, like it's such a big territory, and then you have all these states. And as an outsider, going through the process of living in other countries, I felt that moving from one state to another was changing almost like a country. Like it's a different set of rules, a
Yeah,
different set of laws, a different set of culture,
for sure.
a different set of makeup, social norms change so dramatically between, even though these states are, in a way, quote, conservative. Arizona and Texas, people think to put them into, but they are so
It's
dramatically
crazy.
different. And I just wanted your perspective. Now, I haven't done the 5-state things, which you clearly have, but what has your experience been that everyone, it's almost feeling like when you're in Germany and maybe you live in Switzerland for a while and then you do maybe a internship in it, which is a completely set different of rules.
Yeah, I really love you bringing this up because I actually have the exact same experience. Living coming to Louisiana was obviously one culture, right? And then moving to Massachusetts was literally like moving to another country. I mean, I actually remember packing my things in a U-Haul and driving up there, and it took me I think 2 days to get up there. I think I stopped in Baltimore, slept in my U-Haul, and continued to drive up there. So, and then moving to California was a different ball game altogether. And so yeah, 100%. It's like different. I always say that the United States is at a minimum four different countries, right? You got the South, and you got the Northeast, you got the West, and then you got the sort of the Midwest. But as you said, I mean, each state is somewhat different. What I always found super interesting was, you don't know how big the United States is until I mean, you go to Europe. In Germany, you can go from the west border to the east border in the car by 8 hours. Here, you drive 8 hours and you're not even in El Paso yet, right? So I think that's amazing to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
To that about different cultures, I got written up so much when I moved from the East Coast. I lived in Philly, which is kind of aggressive, gritty, sarcastic. And then I moved to Houston. First of all, I was like, why is everyone being so nice to me? What the hell do they want from me? Like,
What's the angle?
why
What's
is
the
everyone
catch?
saying good morning? I don't like this. After being like 7 years in Philly, in Philadelphia, if somebody liked you, they'll be sarcastic and they'll give you shit. If you do that in Texas, they'll just write you up. So I got written up quite a bit.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But the and I guess the reason why I made a note to bring this up is because this is through my own journey, is I feel I was in an interview not too long ago and they said, "What do you feel is your biggest asset as a human being?" And holy shit, what a question, right? Like, what do you say? But what I came up with is the grit and the resilience to reinvent yourself every step of the way and not lose that ability to continue moving, right?
Yeah.
Like you get kicked off a horse, you either run away or you get back on the horse. And I feel people that move and uproot and keep going and then change and uproot and keep going have this wonderful resilience and capacity to, because it's not easy to build friends. It's not easy to create a network. It's not easy. And when you uproot, even if it's from a state line to the next one, it is, like we said, so different that I think that already makes you probably 1% of individuals that you have a unique power, Matthias, um, of reinventing yourself in that sense. So I think that's very noteworthy. And if you haven't been told before that, I think that upfront without knowing you, I think that alone gives you a very special quality.
Yeah, thank you. And I think for me, it's also like one of the things I always recommend for other parents who have children is to send their kids elsewhere, right? I mean, to send them abroad, to have them experience different other cultures, and not just only from the cultural perspective, but also to like as you said, to adapt and adapt to a new and a different environment, right? And learn independence and things like that. Because I think that ultimately is a can be a great characteristic of you because it can help you in your life, of course. Yeah.
You're saying like for a prolonged time or just for a little bit? Because I'm not a parent, but I hear a lot from parents like concerns are moving different places. It's like uprooting your children from their friends, from their environments. I've always heard that to be a concern, but you're saying that not?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it depends on the family environment, and it depends on the child, right? I mean, my son Luca, he's super independent, and I he's 13, and I sent him to a sleepaway camp in Connecticut this summer, and I dropped him off at the gate of the plane. He got in the plane, and then they picked him up, and then he stayed there for 2 weeks. That that's 2 weeks, right? It's not sort of 6 months, but I think it's a good start to get them confidence and see if they like it, and then you can see how they adapt. And now he wants to do it again next year, and I could envision a possibility where I can send them to Germany to my grandparents. Because we got to, and you can stay there for 2, 3 weeks. I really think it depends on the child, and it depends on the individual, right? What's their propensity toward taking risks and all that. I would never force anything on anybody. If there's some energy around it, some feelings around it where if this doesn't work, I wouldn't do it. I think you just have to feel it out and see what your child wants to do and how they feel about it.
Matthias, let's just kind of dive into kind of what your professional trajectory has been and your new projects. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I guess your transition from being a consultant to leading a company, because at some point you decided to get in the driver's seat, and we understand that company is doing very good. I'd love to understand when did this itch say, okay, I want to stop working for other people. I want to work for myself.
Yeah, I really believe in the concept of hero's journeys, and everybody is sort of in the hero's journey, have multiple hero's journeys in their lifetime, right? So for me, so that the first hero's journey sort of is coming to the States, going to school and finding a job, and that was one thing, trying to stay here, and so I got really proficient at some software systems called SAP. I was recruited by IBM to be in the consulting practice. And at first it was very daunting, right? It was like, oh my God, how do I figure this out? And how do I learn everything? Can I be a good consultant? And can I be successful at that? And then doing that for like 10, 12 years, when you do something for whatever 10,000 hours, you're going to be great at it, right? So I ultimately mastered that, and then I had the opportunity to start this business, and it really came down to the fact that I've mastered my consulting practice, and I was just having an itch to do something different, right? Because I was sort of like, I wouldn't say I was bored of my work, but it wasn't stimulating me anymore. It didn't help me to grow and learn new things. It became like an old hat, right? And so I had this moment where um, my brother, who started the business with Christian, the designer of the bikes in Vienna, Austria in 2013. My brother, one of the first bikes he built in his garage, he sent it over as a birthday present for my son Luca. And as soon as I saw the bike, I knew it was going to be something special. right? And so my son starts riding around the neighborhood, and my neighbor sees the bike, and he's like, my God, he's having so much fun. He loves it. I have a daughter. Where can I get one too for my daughter? So I called my brother, picked up the phone, and I said, hey, Marcus, can you get me one more bike? My neighbor wants one. So I ended up selling my first bike to my neighbor. And the greatest thing was he didn't even ask how much it was. So I was like, $250. He gave me the money, and off we went. And so that was kind of like the start to it. And I'm like, you know what? I only have to have my son ride around and I'm selling bikes. That sounds like a pretty easy gig. And in hindsight, it actually wasn't, but we can talk about that a little bit more. But that's kind of how it all started. And I said, you know what? I'm a consultant at daytime. Let me start a business at nighttime. So I was working basically from 8 to 5 doing my consulting work. I was still traveling quite a bit. Obviously, I had my son and a family, and at night I was literally at night and weekends I was building the business, and so it was basically having sort of two jobs at the same time. So that's kind of sort of how it all started.
Did you feel at any point in time there were signals? I know this is going to sound a little metaphysical, but were there signals, maybe that you, in retrospect, can tell that essentially the world was telling you need to change path? And some of those come, I would even say, are organic. Some people start getting sick for no good reason. And it's your body telling you you need to change.
To do something different.
Yeah. I just feel that the world, the horse you're riding, when it's the wrong one, the world will make sure you get bucked.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel that comes with, I don't know, mental health issues. You're starting to drink a little bit more than you should. You stopped exercising. Your body just doesn't feel in tune. The world is giving you, some of your friends are giving you some feedback that you're very defensive towards. And I feel those moments are potentially moments in which you may need to step back and say, what's going on? Am I where I need to be? And do I need to move in a different direction? I just really believe that if you're fine-tuned to those small messages around you, I think you're manifesting them in a very
Sometimes they're
subtle
not
way.
small.
Sometimes
they're not small
yeah,
at all.
sometimes they're not. But
Yeah.
was there, when you think back, do you think there was anything like that messaging you to potentially change your path?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it was I can't pinpoint to one specific moment. I do remember though during my consulting practice, I was working with one client that was extremely sort of like difficult and not fully aligned with how I view the world. In fact, it was quite opposite. And I think that's when I had the realization that I didn't necessarily want to be in this space long term. And I think what we're really alluding to, I think, is around awareness or where you are on your hero's journey. I think that's how I sort of look at it. Is being aware with how you are feeling with doing the craft that you're doing, right? So do you feel fulfilled, and do you follow your passion of what fuels you, right? And I think intrinsically I noticed that originally this work was very fulfilling for me because I was helping my clients solve problems, but after a while it became less fulfilling. And I think I had a desire to do something that I was more passionate about. And as soon as I sort of saw that bike, I knew I was going to be passionate about sort of bringing that to life here in the United States. And so that's probably the moment where I saw the bike. I knew it was special. I was like, you know what? Let's do something, because in the past I'd also done things with my brother before. We've had an import export business from the United States. We've moved things to Europe back and forth, so we've already worked together. So that was kind of the moment where I felt like, let's start this new hero's journey. I don't know anything about selling things online, and I don't even know what to do. And that's probably was appealing about it, that I wanted a new challenge.
Matthias, you've
For the
mentioned
yeah.
hero's journey now 2 or 3 times. Can we just, before we continue the journey, step back and give some reference for our listeners? What is the hero's journey, and dive a little bit into this concept?
Yeah, I think it's about basically recognizing that you are on a path and a journey in your life, right? You're coming to this, you come into Earth, you come into this environment, and you're basically having to figure things out, and you're having to overcome obstacles, challenges, and then you are overcoming those obstacles and challenges, and then you're becoming the master in your domain, and then you're starting to realize that you've accomplished things, and then you're ready for your next opportunity. And um, and I think that's really a great parallel to life, in my opinion, because you both are very accomplished in what you've done, and you must have had also overcome a lot of challenges and obstacles in becoming as proficient as you are now. And perhaps now you're looking, I don't know, with Lucas, he's now looking in going into this new phase of his life that is, it's pretty daunting, right? And starting this new project, leaving a very established environment, that is his new journey. And but once you do it, you will be challenged, and you will overcome it, and then you will be fulfilled once you've done it.
Yeah. There's a great book about it called The Hero of a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell, where he kind of lays it out, lays the mythology. This is a concept that's been laid out throughout human history. Um, and I agree. I think we all go through different heroes' journeys. I'm kind of following Miguel's footsteps. Miguel was like also extremely
You
established.
should not follow me in any way, shape, or
That is
form.
true. That is true. But for some reason, the universe put me next to you for some reason. So he was very well established in academia, and then decided to go on his own hero's journey and go out on his own. And a couple of days ago, I was talking to some friends. We were in my house in Austin, and they were like, "Dude, why are you leaving? Like this is." And yeah, I think it is because of the hero's journey. Like, I think that for us, I would consider like there's this concept of the dark night of the soul where you go into like the bottom, the pit, the abyss, and from there you kind of resurrect. Residency, fellowship kind of feels like that. I think fellowship for me was a dark night of the soul. Those 2 years were difficult. Thank you, bud. Uh, and and then you kind of come out, you achieve, you kind of resurrect like the phoenix, but then at some point you get comfortable, and the same thing, you get to find a new path, a new adventure, to keep growing as a human. But yeah, so what's your new adventure? You talked about how you scaled the company, and then what are you up to now?
Yeah, let's just go back to
No. There's a lot more
Is
I
it
want to
one
know
more?
about the
Okay.
company. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean, we're at I sold one bike. How do we get to $100 million?
Well, yeah, that's a little detail right there.
it's a it's a fascinating story. In fact, when I started this 2014, and I had this really beautiful business plan written up, and everything made sense. And I was like, yeah, I know I can do this, and this will be a success. And the first year, I literally sold 13 bikes. Right? That's not 30,000 or 30, no, 13. And I obviously, let me just rephrase it. I mean, what we do is we specialize, we disrupted, it's the company's called Woom Bikes, WOOM bikes. And I disrupted the children's bike market. We have bikes from 18 months all the way up to 12 years. We only focus on children, and we have specifically designed bikes for children of all ages that are extremely lightweight, very thoughtfully designed, European design. And we sold those direct to customers. and they're really making a big difference because we help children be more successful. We solve a problem, and the problem is for the child to learn to ride a bike more easily, right? And yeah, that's obviously that's been our journey, and we just don't even sell bikes, we sell smiles, because as soon as our kids get on the bikes, we make it extremely easy for them to learn to ride, and then the kids become happy, the parents become happy, and we are basically a love brand. People love us, we have great repeat customers, and so that's been something throughout the last 11 years that I'm extremely proud of, is that we are a mission purpose driven brand. We inspire millions of children to fall in love with cycling and to make the world a better place doing that. But when I sold those 13 bikes, I wasn't quite so confident how this is going to continue. But with, and you said it again, with grit, resilience, and determination, I put everything pretty much behind it, and I didn't leave a stone unturned, basically. And in the second year, I sold 1,500 bikes, so 1,500 bikes. The second year, that was a half a million in revenue at that point, and then the third year, it was 4.5 million in revenue, so tripled the sales. And then the fourth year was 12 million. And I bootstrapped the business, meaning I've self-financed the business. I didn't take any investors until we were over 20 million in revenue, which was year 6. And so it's been a really uh, uh, um, a labor of love, and I was 24/7 in it, right? I was thinking, dreaming, everything else bikes, and so that's kind of how it all sort of evolved.
So what's walk me through the playbook, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs, physician entrepreneurs that listen in, industry entrepreneurs. Walk me through your playbook. How do you get from 1 to 15 to 1,500 to thousands? What's the blueprints, if we could back and write a book about how you did it? Because here's the deal. Resilience is absolutely the thing that gets you going, but discipline, strategy, consistency, right? Like, what did you do? Because you were, from what I understand, you had an 8 to 5 at the same time, and you kept doing that for a while before you probably at some point say, like, okay, I'm gonna quit that because I can't. But doing that, like, how did you get there? Because that's a point. Like, I've got 7 or 8 LLCs, and sometimes I see no advancement whatsoever, and I feel it's just lack of attention, lack of consistency. But how do you get that consistency to move forward and keep growing?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, which is the key requirement, anything that you're doing, the work and the craft that you're doing must be fully aligned with your passion and mission in life at that point, right? So I think that for me, the number one thing is always energy. And I think, Lucas and I, we talk about this quite a bit, right? So energy is a choice, right? So how do you deploy your energy? And I think when you do something that you're extremely passionate about, then it's actually fairly easy to deploy that energy. If you are doing something that's sort of not fully aligned with your passion and your mission and all that, and then you try to deploy energy into getting into it, then there's a misalignment, and then all of a sudden you cannot think, sleep, and dream about bikes all the time. But it was really something that I felt very compelled about. So the number one key to success is clearly, this is an energy play, and this is something that you must feel very passionate about. So you're telling me you have 7 LLCs. That may mean that in the context of that you must be, or you, in order for you to be successful for all of the 7 LLCs, you ought to be passionate about all 7 of them, and deploy your energy. So I think that's sort of like one thing that I'm like throwing out at you, and then focus comes to mind as well. I think focus is okay. What do we focus our energy on? And at that point, I focused it. Yes, I had to do my consulting job during the day, but at night and the weekends, my focus was clearly on that business. And in 2017, I actually quit that consulting job and went full time.
How many years did you do both then?
3 years. It was just brutal. 2015, my daughter was born as well, so I had a newborn in 15, and so I was just juggling a bunch of balls and doing two jobs. Obviously, having two young children, and all that. In hindsight, it was now it feels a little bit surreal, to be honest, that I did all that. But when I went through it, it was just like, let's go make this happen. Because also, frankly, Miguel, at the beginning, I talked to many people, and many said this isn't going to work. People are not going to buy a a bike that's more expensive than what you can get otherwise. And so I had a lot of naysayers, and I think part of me wanted to sort of prove them wrong, and that was some added motivation for me.
Hmm. I'm gonna say what I was told was what you're doing is professional suicide. Is the words more than one person said. You're where you are. You need to stay there. You need to stay in academics. If you need to shift to another academic program. No, go out of state, change states, restart, do your life. But that's your mission. And if you start this outpatient thing, patient centric, and yada yada yada, y'all know a little bit of what I do. That's professional suicide. You're never going to succeed. The margins aren't there. The codes are not there. And I was like, fuck you. Let's do it. Like, like what am I, once you commit, that's the thing is like, I feel like if you commit, you got to be all in, man.
Yeah. But I think but I think it has to do with alignment, because to be all in, like it has to be 100% or nothing. And for that, you have to kind of feel it in your gut. I think truth and knowledge, there's different types, and one of them is the one that you feel viscerally. And for that, for purpose, you have to feel it in your gut that this is your purpose. And I think when you do that, the universe, and you move towards that, the universe just guides you and rewards you. That's been my limited experience in this
I mean,
journey.
it's a calculated
Yeah.
risk ultimately. I mean, I would hope that people don't say, I'm going to go and sell ice in the middle of a road.
I don't know.
It's a
I mean,
calculated.
there are crazy stories of people that do, like, one of the most successful people that I knew growing up just sold sandwiches, but he sold the best fucking sandwiches in Puerto Rico. The guy made millionaire just selling sandwiches after parties, but they were the best sandwiches. So I think that, yeah, I'm not saying go sell ice or sell sandwiches, but if that's your purpose and your passion, then I don't know. I'm not going to tell you not to do it.
It has to be, so that there has to be something there, in terms of the sort of the love of what you're doing. And I think, Miguel, you're right. I think there's also some entrepreneurs are a different breed of people, right? They like to create things. You have high propensity toward risk, and they it's just a different group of people, and we were lucky to be in this country where it's really fairly easy to start a business. Now, it's not so easy to succeed, of course, but I want to kind of go back to a couple of other factors that I feel like are very important, and some of those are common sense, right? For me, it was it I made a lot of mistakes, okay, early on. I was like, okay, I have a great brand, I got the best products out there, ought to be pretty easy to sell them to customers. But of course, there's the infamous awareness topic. You got to be able to tell people that you exist, and beyond that, you got to tell them why they ought to buy your product. I mean, it sounds very simple and basic, but it's the awareness and the messaging. In our case, it was parents, busy parents that are busy with the kids. Why would they? How do I get them to be aware of the product? And then, secondly, why would they go online and buy the products that I offer to them, right? And for me, I think early on, it's always about awareness and trust. Okay, how do you understand your target market? Like, don't you know, dial in on who you are serving and understand that. And secondly, find a way to get them to be aware of your product and build trust. And so early on, this was in 2014, 15, 16, where influencers weren't quite so common, as a matter of fact. I mean, a lot has changed in the last 10, 12 years. But back in the days, we had review sites for bikes and specific review sites for kids' bikes. And so I made the point to be on all those top review sites. And I was relentless working with them, and I truly created a win-win situation with those review sites. I educated them on our bikes and what's important, and created value for them. They tested our bikes, and when they tested our bikes, we always won. Basically, we were always the number one. And so it didn't matter to the customer what I was saying, because I could say whatever I want. I could say I'm the best this and that, and I have the best sandwiches, and I have the best bikes, whatever else. But a lot of people claim this in the market. You need to be able to create trust. And the way to do it is you create trust by having a third party obviously review your products, and give you the sort of the social proof around that one, right? Now that was 14, 15, 16. Many things have changed in the world of influencers, affiliate marketing, programs such as that, where you're now at a point where it's not so easy anymore, because a lot of the review sites are rigged. If you go to any review site right now, you will see that there are links in there, and you click on the link, and it goes to a particular website or to Amazon, and they have a tracking mechanism that when you are buying that product, that website is getting a commission on the sale. So be very careful nowadays with those review sites, because they're all driven through what's called affiliate marketing. But for me, early on, that was kind of like the one of the keys. And the last thing I want to say on this one is, it is extremely important that you serve your customer to the best of your ability, because the customer is what matters. So I always put my customer first, and I made sure that I'm serving that client or customer in the best possible way, because I know if that one customer is happy and fulfilled and excited, they become fans of your brand. And when you become fans of your brand, they're going to tell 13 other moms and dads in the neighborhood. And that's ultimately how we created success.
I mean, so from what I'm hearing resilience, brand awareness, attention to detail on client care, and I'm missing one.
Win-win.
Oh, create win-win alliances.
Win-win.
Just from a purely logistical standpoint, working with a European company, right? You're making these bikes in Europe, you're working in the US. How did you make that work? Were you constantly communicating? Was there a cadence? Is there a Zoom call happening? Or wait, it's 2015. What would we call it? It wasn't Zoom. It wasn't Zoom, but was there,
Skype?
what
I
Skype?
think it was Skype.
Skype? How was the daily, what made this recipe work?
Yeah, it's really amazing question, because like I was working with my brother, right? And when you're working with your brother, it's just there's an inherent trust level there, that you can completely trust each other. So that's been a really great experience for me, because it wasn't just a business partner; it was my brother, and we knew that we both wanted to do the sort of the best we could in both sides of the pond, basically. Fun fact was, I we had to modify the bikes a little bit for the US market, because there's some different regulations in the US compared to Europe. And so, but that was done pretty easily. But we were really aligned pretty quickly. And the fun fact was, we had a little bit of a sibling rivalry. I mean, we were trying to see who can grow the business faster. So it was a little bit of a rivalry, and but we worked together very closely. But frankly speaking, yes, there was some early on. It was so much fun because it was just us founders, right? It was Marcus, Christian in Europe, and then myself here. And then as we were growing, then we needed to put in systems and processes to coordinate the communication across the pond, because we had more and more employees. We have roughly over 200 employees worldwide right now. So it's, that's part of the scaling, is how do you create less reliance on the founders, and have the team manage the communication.
Interesting.
How do you think your old self professionally, what's been the biggest impact of your last job, that knowledge base that you grew? Has it in any way, shape, or form helped your current company? And what's potentially the biggest asset that you've brought in, intellectually speaking?
Yeah, I mean, I was super lucky to be exposed and working in the consulting field of of system architecture. And what that really means is I understand business from A to Z, and so I think for me, I have a really good idea of what it takes, literally from procurement to manufacturing to assembly to the warehousing, distribution, customer experience, and then also fulfillment and all that. So I was lucky to have been seeing the best companies, working with them before starting my own business. So I think a lot of times I don't value that enough. So I appreciate the question, because for me, building and starting a business is fairly straightforward, and that's why I also get into coaching now. I really feel like I can help other business owners build something based on my experience, and have them avoid some of the mistakes that some of the business owners might make. Yeah. So, but that's been super valuable, and having built something. Also gives me now the opportunity to give back to others. So if they need something that I can help them with, then, and that's what I'm doing right now, is I just help other business owners scale and grow their business.
Yeah, let's go into that, Matthias. Like, you obviously you had your hero's journey, you grew the company successful, and then you decided I need a change. Can you walk us through that? How did that happen?
Yeah, and so in to kind of like tie up the knots a little bit. So in 2021, we sort of like put both companies, the US company, European company, we consolidated and merged that into one business, right? And so that became like the global business, and I ended up becoming the sort of the CEO of that business, and that business was in Vienna, Austria. And so I had to like fly back and forth quite a bit between the two businesses, and I had an epiphany in 2022. I was at a meditation and a yoga retreat, and the epiphany that came up for me was, because I was spending a lot of energy on the business. Obviously, I was like asking myself, why am I doing what I'm doing? And the answer that I got was pretty revealing. And so I had a I it kind of made me rethink what I want to do in life. And so at the end of um, 23, I decided to sort of get out of the operational aspect of the business, and we brought in a CEO that continued to run the business. And the epiphany was that mm, things have changed for me, and that I felt like I was doing now the things for the wrong reasons, and I felt like I needed to be more aligned with my sort of new motivation. And so that epiphany was pretty powerful for me. and really gave me some clarity around things.
Would you?
go
I was about to
into
say. Would
into
you?
what are the wrong reasons?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What are the wrong
Do you
reasons?
feel comfortable sharing with us what that reason was that was misaligned? Is it money?
Yeah, I felt like, and I've never really talked about that, so I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I felt like I it came to a point where I was doing things to show to others that I can be successful and that I deserve things. So, in other words, if I do and if I am successful, then I'm getting validation and I'm getting accolades and I'm getting awards. And then I feel like other people would acknowledge me for the success that I've created. So the sort of the doing of things, I thought that didn't give me the fulfillment that I initially thought it would give me. So I felt like I was not aligned with really sort of my true why and my true calling, and that was the epiphany that I had, and it was a big one for me because it then made me start figuring out why and what do I really want to do in life going forward.
Okay, and how was that process? So you have this epiphany, I'm doing these things for the wrong reasons, I get to find a new purpose. How was that process of finding your new north?
Yeah, it's for me. I also what I failed to mention was in 21, I got a divorce. My kids were Luca was 9 and my daughter was 6 at that time, and I filed for divorce from my wife in 2020, and then in 21 I got a divorce, and that kind of like put things sort of upside down for me. At the same time, I was running a business. This was actually during COVID. I have 2 kids, and I think that was also like a really important moment for me to realize that sort of it took me a lot of courage to file for that divorce, right? I mean, I've been in this relationship for over 10 years, and having the courage to walk away and having to start figuring things out basically from scratch with 2 kids, that was also another factor that I don't want to underestimate. So that was a big deal for me, and it started to actually also question myself a little bit. Okay, did I make the wrong? Obviously, I mean, I wouldn't say I made the wrong choice marrying her, but that there was a lot of like guilt and shame and sadness around that decision. But having said that, these things just all came together, and I felt like this was like a catalyst for me to start looking at myself. And I just spent a lot of time with like I hired you don't want to know how much money I spent on coaching, but I brought in some really great coaches that helped me look at myself. It's like why, just kind of explore and look inward. And I start doing a lot of programming. Obviously, the program we did together was an important one. The Leadership Academy, but also like just taking time and looking at myself and reflecting, and then getting more awareness over my situation. And but that was it was a process, but it was important because it helped me get clarity on what I want to do next.
Yeah, can you talk about coaching? Because I was very hesitant. I started doing coaching, I think I started with a friend.
Like you mean taking coaching?
Yeah, taking coaching. I started with a friend who was like super organized. And my organization skills, as Miguel knows, are horrible.
You've gotten so much better though.
Yeah, my friend.
Let me go on record
Yeah.
here and say I'll be doing something and I'll look at my phone and I'll say, shit, I gotta run because I know that inevitably at 7 a.m. you're gonna be in front of the computer ready to go.
Yeah,
Like when we have a meeting, when you and I say, hey, we gotta meet and do about this.
yeah.
Like the old Lucas, I would have been like, A,
Where the
he's gonna
hell
be
are you?
low,
Yeah.
he's not gonna log
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
or I'm gonna have to call him and be like, "Hey, I'm on.
Yeah.
Like, where are you?"
Yeah. Now I call you.
And now it's
Yeah.
you reverse this whole
Yeah.
thing, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
this guy's doing some strides.
It's
So
coaching.
congrats, bro.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It's coaching. And before I did it, I was like, when I heard the word coaching, I dismissed it for some reason. Now I'm like, oh, I'm going to get coaching I'm going to invest in coaching every single year of my life. Like, I'm never going to stop getting coaching because it's like university, but better. And you learn like things you want to learn. So can you talk about coaching? Did you have coaches before, and how do you see the value of coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of it. I mean, I think for me, it probably started in 2015 when I had a therapist. You know, I was like in such bad form with my marriage and everything else. So I started working with a therapist and went there every week. And I literally remember walking into the therapist office and I asked her, Lindsay, what's wrong with me? You know, and that's kind of like how I started. And so that relationship opened up more doors for me in terms of okay, seeking help and kind of like being surrounded by others that can, hey, you have the opportunity to just talk through things, right, and to be vulnerable and like to open up, which was super helpful for me early on. And then I started working, joined a peer group of other CEOs. I think that was very helpful for me because it allowed me to be surrounded by others and also have a coach alongside with that. And then in 21, I sort of went all out. I really felt the need to get clarity. And I think, Miguel, you mentioned earlier, like something in the universe triggering you that made it happen. And then I hired one of the best coaches, for that, because I wanted to make sure that if I get into the next relationship, I wanted to be really prepared, and I want to make sure that I don't make the same mistakes again that I did in the past. And so I hired a relationship and intimacy coach, and I worked with her for 6 months every week on things that relate to yourself, but also your relationship with your new partner. And I did that for 6 months. It was very intensive, but it was one of the best things I've ever done because it gave me such clarity on sort of not only who I am, but also what I'm looking for in my next partner. And so yeah, I have coaches for working out. I have a coach. I had a media coach that helped me present better online because I was doing a lot of investment pitches. I had a speaking coach that helped me do better presentations. I mean, I had a dating coach, by the way. For full disclosure, I hired a dating coach that helped me um, be a better, you know, a data, so to speak, right? And so I'm just a huge fan of it, because as you said, Lucas, is they teach you new things, but they also hold you accountable. I think the accountability piece of it is also important. So yeah, I'm just a big fan of it in general. And so I've learned a lot, and now I sort of want to give back and help others the same way. There's a very, very interesting dynamic around coaches, and it's the coach student relationship. And it's a symbiotic relationship. And so if the student pays attention to the coach and actually sort of does what the coach recommends, it makes the student better. And when the student applies it and the coach recognizes that the student actually does, and take the information and the feedback, then it actually makes the coach better too. The coach is going to step it up and they're going to put even more energy into the student. And so when that positive win-win situation happens, it elevates both, and both actually grow during the process.
Yeah.
So have you regretted any of the coaching money you've invested? Or you think every single time it was a home run?
No, I had some experiences that were also not the best. But having said that, my mindset is always I'm always going in and I'm trying to get the best and most out of it. It's almost like you going to some event, and the event may not be what you expected it to be, I think you could always find something positive out of it, out of that event, and so that's kind of how I approach life. So yeah, I had some coaching that was not the best, but you learn from it, and maybe next time, sorry, you ask better questions before you join something because you've had that experience. Yeah.
And I say that because I know there's a lot of young physicians in training that may not have the funds, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. It's expensive. I think it's been my beef with coaching is I think a lot of people have taken advantage of it. And with very little academic background, they go out there and they charge hundreds of dollars to try to show you the way.
Yeah.
And I don't think everybody is a good coach. And I think there's a lot of shit coaches out there. And it's very important to your point that people understand that you get to usually engage with them. You have to make the questions. And even if you decide to go, don't overcommit, right? Don't say, hey, I'm going to do 12 months of coaching with you at this price. Because the reality is after a couple of months or maybe after a couple of sessions, you don't want to talk to this person ever again. So you don't want to waste that money. Coaching is also, it's almost like dating, right? I mean, you date, you go out, you're like, hey, this is the coach for me, or hey, this isn't the coach for me, right? And
Yeah.
maybe it's not that they're shit coaches. It's just that that's not,
Yeah.
that connection, that alignment isn't happening. And you need to be able to be you have to be self-empathetic and allow you to be like, okay, I tried and it wasn't the right one. It doesn't mean that you're not for coaching, but don't waste time when it doesn't feel right, when it doesn't sound right. There are multiple options out there.
Yeah,
Date your coaches.
yeah, that's the thing. The thing about coaching is like it's different. Is I found it difficult to get like good reviews or get like good just to see if it's gonna be a good fit. So the only way that I found it is through people that I respect in what they're doing and that they align, the coaches that they have had, then I'm like, okay, if this person, which I think is great, I respect, I admire, says that this is a great coach, then I'll try it out. That's kind of the only
So like,
way.
for example, in his case, him being a business coach,
Yeah.
coming from an uber successful
Yeah.
business career, you feel that gives a lot of depth.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. It's the the ones I have the issues with are the
Like
ones that are like,
if you're
hey, I'm a man coach. I'm gonna
Yeah.
coach you on how to be a good man. And I'm like, okay, what's your acumen?
Yeah.
Well, I've been through hell and back. Okay, well, maybe that's not enough for me, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe I need specifics and I need to see your track record that you bring something. I know it's not always
Yeah.
academic. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
I feel some people bring life experience,
For sure.
and that itself is very
I think
important.
life experience is
It's not book knowledge, right?
Yeah,
It's
I think like, but I do think that we've lost a lot of, there's a lot of talk about like the manosphere and what it is to be a man and healthy masculine. And there is, if you look at like TVs and stuff, you see a lot of like the goofy dad or like the dumb, the guy that needs to be rescued. So I feel like and we have lost a lot of traditions. We've lost a lot of like family interactions where you learn from other men in your family. So I do think that there's a space to get acquainted into what is, again, like masculine energy. How do you walk in the world as a man?
this is why you need to get out of Austin. I love that you're going there, by the way.
Yeah.
I love it. Look at the conservative of you coming out now at this stage in your life.
That's not conservative.
Hey, those are conservative values, sir.
This is like universal law. I mean, yeah. I mean, whatever. I'm not gonna get into politics, but I think that this is there's the yin and the yang. Like the Chinese told us this like thousands of years ago. There's masculine, there's feminine, and men can have more feminine if they decide to or not. But like 80% of men, are masculine men, and they just we need to find that in ourselves again and how to be healthy and positive in that way. I don't know.
Mathias, I feel like we can talk with you for
Well,
a
tell us,
Rogan experience, a
Yeah.
3-hour experience. No, and I just want to say, I want to
Yeah.
point out that we're getting
we have
about an
time.
hour. and that's normally what we ask our guests for. So I
Yeah.
don't want to necessarily overstep myself. Um, if there's any other little twist that you want to go this
But
conversation, otherwise I would rather have him back and do a lot more of these because I
well,
think we need.
I want
I would like
Matthias.
even love to just make one about the business part.
Yeah, well, I kind of want to talk about the coaching offer because we worked through Matthias and I were in a coaching program together. So I was there when he presented to me his offer, which I think is great. So I just want to give you the opportunity to present it.
Like your pitch.
No,
What's your
like what his
coaching
offer, his
pitch?
value. Like I think Matthias is an amazing human. So yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing it up, because I think for me, the realization I had was my mission is now to inspire others to become the best version of themselves. And that's where everything starts, right? So I think that goes into helping other entrepreneurs and business owners and executives run their businesses better. I'm helping smaller businesses get started and grow and continue to help them. And then I'm also building a program right now for businesses that are 5 million plus. That is like a 2-year program where it's called Birthing of Giants, where the business owners come together as a cohort. And in the cohort, we meet every quarter, and then we help businesses continue to create value, improve the profitability, and build leadership teams to continue to grow them to where they want it to go. Because you talked about a playbook earlier. Well, yeah, are there playbooks? Yeah, but this is a program that allows other entrepreneurs and business owners to come together, and we can help them, or I can help them, basically grow and create value. And the one thing I'm passionate about that is sort of like adjacent to that is we joked about it that 100% of us is divorced, right? And so we have 100% hit rate here. And as it turns out that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners and in general, the divorce rate is very high, and we all know that divorces are extremely painful for both, partners. And I have been through a very painful experience, and I've come out of it on the other side. And I've had a lot of coaching and a lot of programs that I went through, and I feel like I want to give back and help other divorced men, divorced business executives, entrepreneurs, and founders. But it could be anybody that is open to expediting the process of basically finding themselves again, right? And so Lucas and I talked. It took me 2 years, 2.5 years to get through it. It's just a painful process, and my program allows for that person to be basically get clarity sooner, rebuild their life again, focus on getting physically and mentally a healthy again, becoming a better parent. Most of us are parents, and then also supporting them with their business, because when you go through the divorce, you kind of sort of taking your eyes off the business, because you sort of like, or your career, because you are so distracted by this very difficult process, and then ultimately helping that person finding sort of their dream partner again. Many divorced men are very, they feel they feel like they might not be ready for another relationship. They feel like they may never want to get married again. They're very disappointed in women. They feel betrayed or whatever else you have it, right? So I would like to basically provide an offer to basically reinvent themselves and to optimize them again based on the experiences that I've gone through in life.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking about it when we were talking about your offer, and yeah, like the years of like mistake after mistake that I made after getting divorced. If I had someone to say, "Hey, just follow this coaching, do this thing," so you avoid some of those, that's kind of invaluable.
Yeah, I mean, I think your strongest pitch, and this is obviously from my own um, viewpoint here, is I see a guy that's been very successful. I see a guy that has had the money and the time and the interest to put forth a lot of work in himself, and that obviously, paying for coaching is a transactional and valuable part of feeling like you're doing something for a reason. But I don't feel that coming from where you're doing this because of the money. And that for me, it's very important because I personally come with extreme skepticism when I enter any of these coaching things that they're, some of them are just ridiculous amount of money. And I'm just not understanding what the value is. But when I see you, I would happily sit down with you, pay for your time and get advice because I feel, you don't need my money. You probably don't. Let's be honest. Who cares? My $100 or $200, whatever. You'll probably, blow your nose with it. But the reality is, you've been through hell and back multiple times, on the business side, on the personal side, on the emotional side, on the sentimental side, and that makes you, for me, a master Jedi, right? This is the kind of person I want mentoring me. This is the kind of person I want mentoring me. You are bringing life value to the table. You've been through it. You get it. And with that, I want to thank you for your time. I don't want to cut us off, but I really think that it's important for us to respect our time frames of our listeners and of our guests. Mathias, the floor is yours for any closing arguments here.
Thank you so much, the Master of Jedi. I love it. Actually, I might have to put that on my website. I appreciate sort of the kind words. I'm totally aligned with that, and I really, I'm doing this because I'm passionate about my mission, right? To do that, and that's what I'm committed to doing. And I really, for the sort of second half of my life, I that's what I want to do. I want to help others, and by helping others, I know that I can also continue to grow and become a better person. So, yeah, thanks for having me on this podcast. I really enjoyed talking with you about business topics and where I'm taking things. And yeah, I love to come back. So thanks so much for having me, even though I'm not a physician. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, we'll do it in person next time.
Because we're here in the
Yeah.
hill country today, recording in the most beautiful weather with the most beautiful backdrop. And I have no doubt that you would be enjoying this as much as we are. So we look forward to being in person with you. Okay.
All right,
Thank you
Mathias,
very much,
brother.
brother. God
Thank you
bless.
so much.